guys, it's Trina, and today I am sharing with you what my favorite books I read in 2017 were. This year I have read 88 books in total. I think I have 11 books on my list. I started out with quite a bit more, and I really wanted to narrow it down, and I just could not get it to 10. It would not be genuine if I tried to just put 10 books on this list. I could not leave any of these off. I really truly loved all of these books. I'm not going to be ranking these, although I do have a top favorite, so I'll tell you that one at the end. But I am going to kind of sort them by genre. First up, I want to talk about my favorite graphic novel that I read this year. It's actually a whole series of graphic novels, so maybe you want to say this counts as 3 books, but I'm just counting it as one slot in my favorites list. It is the March Trilogy by John Lewis. John Lewis is a political figure in the United States, and he was a very active leader in our civil rights movement in history, and this series of graphic novels is his true memoir. It's like his autobiography. He did have help from another writer and an illustrator to put this series together, but this is his story in his own words. It's real history, so I mean, I loved it. It was very, very impactful. It had me crying, and I just have a huge appreciation for what this man has been through. It was a good time to be reading this series this year, in my opinion, and it really, really stuck with me. Next, I want to talk about my favorite retelling that I read this year. That was Hunted by Meagan Spooner. This is the only book on this list that I gave 4 stars as opposed to 5 stars, but I still really felt like it deserved a spot on this list because it was my favorite retelling that I read this year, and when I read it, I really had fun with it. Like, I gave it a lower rating for some technicalities, like it's a little bit slow and the ending wasn't quite as impactful as I wanted it to be, but I really enjoyed my time in that world and just spending time in the characters' day-to-day life and just the way that Meagan Spooner wrote this tale. It's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, by the way. And the story and the characters have stuck with me in my mind, you know, for the rest of the year since I read it. So when I was making this list, I was like, you know what? That's not the best book I read this year, but it's one of my favorites. Like, that feeling of just feeling engrossed by it. I think it was definitely a case of I picked this book up at the right time when my reading mood just needed that book. So I still really enjoyed it. If you love retellings, I would definitely recommend this one. As for my favorite science fiction reads of the year, one of those is Warcross by Marie Lu. This is the type of sci-fi that I really enjoy. It's YA, it's like technological, like video game based. I just had a really fun time reading this. I enjoyed the main character and the quest that she was going through and just like the setup of the world and that technology. Part of the reason I like this one so much is because I've read everything by Marie Lu at this point, and this is a book I felt she was meant to write. Like, her writing just really suits the technology. I think she does it so well. Another sci-fi series that I'm fitting in here together is the Themis Files series by Sylvain Neuvel. The first book is called Sleeping Giants, and the second book is called Waking Gods. I read them both this year. This is an amazing series. It is told in like interview format, like dossier style, and it is just, I was just there for it. I was really hooked on it. I thought it was very intriguing. Actually, you know, I gave the first book 4 stars also, so there are 2 books on this list that were 4 stars. But the second book I gave 5 stars, and like just viewing the 2 together and the series overall, it's a 5-star series in my heart. I really love it. I geek out so much when I read these books. I can't wait for the next book. This is like maybe number 2 on my list. Like, if I'm having to rank them, this is a series that I feel like has defined my year. I just geeked out over it so much. It makes me happy, and yeah, like, he keeps doing things that are like a little bit mind-blowing at the end of these books. It's a unique, interesting, weird series, and I love it. Then there is Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray, which is science fiction slash historical slash paranormal slash fantasy. It's kind of a mashup of a lot of genres, but oh, I love this series. This is the 3rd book in the Diviners series, which this series is now in my all-time favorites. There's an amazing cast of characters. The friend group is really wonderful. The diversity is wonderful. The plot is very interesting, kind of spooky. This book like had a big kind of climactic scene where you start really learning more answers and seeing really like the villains come out and seeing the main cast of characters really work together. And again, I just really completely geeked out about this series as I was reading it. It just made me happy. She threw me for some twists. I changed my opinions on certain characters and certain things, and it gave me like the emotional highs, emotional lows. It did not disappoint at all. I am in love with this series, absolutely. My first favorite fantasy book that I read this year was Three Dark Crowns by Kendare Blake. I read this one pretty early in the year, and I know this one has a lot of mixed opinions, but I really loved these characters. It is kind of a slow beginning because you're having to learn 3 whole different sets of characters and locations and magic systems, but once they all came together, I thought that they came together beautifully, and one of the things I loved about it most was the amount of theorizing I got to do while reading this book, because I just have a feeling that things are not what they seem, and I love to theorize when I read, and this was the book I read this year that just gave me the most opportunity to think, this is what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen, this person is really like this, and you know, so I just really enjoyed that experience. I have not read the sequel to this one yet, but I can't wait to read it and find out where things go. So I really love when the first book of a series, you know, has a lot there for me to grab onto and also look forward to in the future of the series, and this one definitely did that for me. My next fantasy favorite is the Wayward Children series by Seanan McGuire. There are currently 2 books out in this series, and a 3rd one is coming out in January, and I have the advanced copy of it. So I've read all 3 of these books in 2017. The first book is called Every Heart a Doorway, the second book is Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and the 3rd book is Beneath the Sugar Sky. I definitely love this series. Just one of these books, if I'd only read one of them this year, it would have been on my list. I really love how whimsical and kind of gothic this series is at the same time. Like, it's a little dark, it's a little light. It's just a magical series. I love learning about all the different types of worlds that exist. Like, it's kind of a multi-dimensional type thing. Like, these characters find portals to other worlds and find out where they really belong, and I absolutely love this series. I also have to throw this fantasy book on there. It is Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. This is one of the books in her Throne of Glass series. It really surprised me. I thought I was going to hate it. I didn't want to read it at first. I was very surprised with a lot of things. First of all, I really like that this installment in the series, this is a high fantasy series. There's a lot of magic, and there's like fae, and in the rest of the series we're following this character who's very, very powerful, a bunch of characters that are very, very powerful, and in this one we're just following a human character, and the world seems a little bit more mellow, a little bit more relatable, because this is just a human character, and you're seeing how they experience this world of great magic and prophecy and everything. And so to me, I guess it just brought it back down to earth a little bit. I also really have enjoyed seeing how I believe Sarah J. Maas's writing has grown in this book. I think it's definitely miles ahead of the past books in this series in terms of world building, character development. I really liked this book for what it was, for what it has, and I hope that she keeps that momentum in the rest of the books in this series and just like whatever she writes in the future. And the rest of the books on my list are all contemporaries, and the first that I want to talk about is Bad Romance by Heather Demetrios. This is a book about an abusive romance. I've been open about this on my channel before. I've experienced very manipulative, toxic, and abusive relationships in the past. This was a book that I could really like live in and relate to because I've been through it. And I mean, I think it's definitely going to be great to outsiders as well, because there are many moments where it just makes it very, very clear how the victim is feeling and why she is staying in that moment. And I think that's something very important to have, especially in young adult books, where you can really empathize and understand why someone gets into a situation like this and feels like they cannot get out of it. So it was very impactful. It meant so much to me. I saw so much of my own experiences reflected in this book. So to me, it was just like a little piece of myself, and I really loved it for that. Another book that I feel is a piece of myself, but it's completely opposite in themes and tone, is The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. This is a light-hearted little romance. The main character is fat and she has anxiety. Those are both things that I personally relate to, and she is a hopeless romantic. She's got a lot of crushes on boys that don't even realize it, and I totally was like that when I was a teenager, so completely related to this main character, Molly, and just felt the things that she was going through, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed having a book that represents me, because I haven't seen very much fat rep or anxiety rep that I really connected with. I love it. I love Becky's writing. I love her characters, and I just really appreciate having this book, so definitely a favorite of the year. And then I have saved this book for last, because if you ask me what is your one top favorite book of the year, I would tell you without hesitation, it is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. This book has a very powerful message, very needed and timely message about the Black Lives Matter movement, but beyond that, it's just wonderfully written, in my opinion. Angie writes so many different types of scenes in her book that I can't believe one writer wrote this. Like, she can write a very brutal murder scene, she can write protest scenes, she can write family dinners, basketball games, a day in her school life hanging out with her friends, and just like every single one of them felt flawlessly put together. It's like she just didn't even miss a beat. She could write action and slow stuff and important heavy stuff and sad things and happy things and funny things. She just, I think, like, for a debut author, I can't believe how well written I thought this book was. Absolutely cannot wait to see what more Angie Thomas writes. I love this book. So those are my favorite books I read in 2017. Also, I will have a second video up for my least favorite reads of this year, if that is something that you're interested in seeing. And a bunch of other year-end videos should be going up around this time. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what your favorite book of the year was, and I will see you in the comments. Bye!